Welcome everybody to our first podcast episode of Whiskey Watches in the Works with my good friend, my guest today on the show, Wyatt Wilson. Thanks for coming on the show, bro. Appreciate it. Do a little taste test. So you went with two of the old Foresters, two of my more recent bottles too that I just recently picked up. And like you were saying, I think it's from their Whiskey Rose series. Yeah, which is a new series that they're doing. So we've got the 1910 Old Fine Whiskey and then the 1920 Prohibition style. So which one do you want to get into first?
Let's go with the lower one.
The lower one?
Yeah.
Okay, 93 proof.
Let's get a good pop on it.
Ooh. Yeah, really good. Nice. Look at that. Some people are probably going to get all bent out of shape about that. I just twisted it off. Yeah. Thanks for coming on, dude.
Appreciate it.
Been wanting to do this for a long time.
Probably since like, what, June?
June-ish. Yeah, a lot of life has happened though, obviously, but we're here now. So that's all that matters. Look at that. That's a lot. The color on this is really good.
It doesn't look syrupy like most.
It doesn't look like what?
Syrupy?
No, not at all.
Like a lot of the cheaper ones I noticed. Mm-hmm. That's how they are.
Well, cheers, dude. Thanks for coming on. A little bit of a bite.
Not bad.
It's good though. It's smooth. Yeah, for 93 proof, that's not bad. It smells great too. Now, are you a big bourbon whiskey drinker or?
Brands specific more than anything. I like Pendleton a lot.
Pendleton,
yeah, the Midnight. That one's a 90 proof. That's probably the second highest one I've had, right next to. My godfather actually used to make it in his garage.
Really?
Yeah, he almost lost both of his stills actually when his garage burnt down. So he had to kind of like tuck him back in the corner. But he had one that was like 140, 145. And I've never had my nose burned so bad.
145.
Oh yeah.
It's like evaporate in your mouth before you can even swallow it. Oh, boo. That's okay. That's okay. Maybe that's a sign it's not going to be as good. Now this one is going to be 115 proof.
It's going to hurt my soul.
A little higher octane. I'm going to let it air out for a second and kind of chill out.
You know, I didn't know that was a thing.
It's going to be angry.
Like I saw this video about pouring beer, and if you pour a beer faster, it doesn't expand in your stomach. And I was like,
if you pour it faster?
Yeah, because it like lets the gas release.
Oh, okay.
Because like all the foam and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then if you pour it slow and it doesn't foam out, like a bunch of the gases stay in.
Oh.
And I'm like, no way.
So you've been pouring your beers faster?
Yeah, absolutely. We went down to the USS Midway and I bought a beer glass just for that reason.
Just for that? Yeah. Look at this, dude. The color is, it's still amber, but it's not as dark. Smell this one. It's gonna singe your mustache. This is stronger, for sure. I'm gonna let it air out. Plus it was a neck pour.
Dude, I'm nervous.
First pour. Why are you nervous?
115 proof.
All right, let's try it. Let's get into it.
I can't remember the last time I had liquor.
Well?
Wait, does Bailey's count as liquor?
I wouldn't count it as liquor, but... Yeah, cheers, bud.
Yeah.
I will say though, especially with it being, October and getting into fall, this just reminds me so much of
it's
like
time
fall.
to switch. Get off the beer and. Cause I've been thinking about every time I go to the store, I'm like, no, just get some beer.
I mean, I always say this, I'm an advocate of responsible drinking. Like, you shouldn't be crushing one of these over a night or two.
No, yeah.
But yeah. I
don't think you'd be able to with as high of proof as it is, dude.
I mean, I think you'd be surprised. I think there are people out there that are doing that. Which is crazy. Like, these aren't cheap bottles. Yeah, and if you're crushing these every night, like, that's a lot of money, too.
Excuse me.
So, out of these two, which one would you go with? I know which one I'm going with. You're gonna go with that one. That's surprising. I thought you really liked this one.
That one bit a little too much, and I was just like,
It has more of like a spice, like a Thanksgiving allspice, nutmeg, cinnamon, like just get a good nose in there. You get like a lot of spice, right?
Wait.
Oh. There you go. Better.
This one's, I guess, is like more my style.
The weird thing is, I would almost say that that's lighter on the flavor profile.
That's why.
But it's got more of a punch.
Yeah, because I can feel it now.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'm not nervous anymore.
Yeah. But it definitely has more of a punch.
I think when I read about it, that's why, the whole Prohibition thing. Because me and my dad are huge history buffs and like Bonnie and Clyde and the whole Prohibition era.
Yeah. What did you read about this? Because I'm curious.
So they're the only, or I think it was like six companies that were able to make medicinal whiskey during the Prohibition. They're one of the only companies to be able to make whiskey before, during, and after.
That's the same thing I read. And this recipe supposedly is the exact recipe that they were doing putting out, the product that they were putting out during Prohibition.
You ever seen the movie Lawless?
No, I haven't.
You need to.
I'll put it on the list.
Well, this is what it makes me think of, is like the running and back and forth and all that.
Okay. I think I would go with this, though. I like a lot of that, like, in-your-face
Yeah, but you're
spice.
a lot more of a bourbon guy.
It's weird for me because you're getting a lot more proof out of this, so it's like you're getting a lot more like barrel, if you will. You're getting essentially more boom for your buck.
When I smell it, I smell like dirt, and I think that's what I like so much about it.
Well, I guess you like dirt bourbon, bro.
It's like, people used to make fun of me when I used to dip.
Yeah. Because
I do long cut or snuff, and you're like, oh, you're chewing dirt, and it's like, that's what I like.
You like what you like.
Used to swipe my old man's cans.
You can really tell the difference in those colors, though.
A lot more in the bottom, though. If like you look in the top, it's kind of really similar.
Yeah. This is like a light caramel, toffee, color, and this just looks like you almost get like hues of red, dark, burnt orange, ambers. Yeah. This, you can like see through it. And this one, you can, but it is dark. But it's good stuff. You have picked two great bottles, I think, to start the podcast out with.
Luckily.
Switching now to something a little bit less lethal, if you will.
Liquor before beer, you're in the clear.
Yeah, you're in the clear, so we're good. We'll add a few little sips.
This tastes like water now, dude. That's insane.
Yeah. Carbonate. It's like a seltzer. We're drinking our basic white girl seltzer now.
Oh no, I can't do that.
Oh, dude, I have some claws in there. You want a claw?
No, I can't do that.
All right.
Take my man card if I do that.
Yeah.
I remember I had some up at the Crosses one time, and I was like, I'm never gonna let myself live this down.
Have a seltzer.
Oh god, I felt so bad.
Well, dude, some stuff I wanted to get into. First, we'll start with all your tattoos. I know you recently got a bunch of tattoos.
I'm working on the traditional sleeve. We got the one we both love.
Yeah,
you can see that one.
Blue Diamond Boys.
Yes, sir.
You gotta love that one. And the guy who did your work, he did really clean. He does really clean work.
So this was 2 sessions. He did all the line work in like three hours, and then not that one. And then we did the shading in 3.5. We got to the elbow, and that was the last one we were supposed to do that day. And then he's like, we got like a half hour, and I'm like, send it. Because the inside of the bicep, I've come to find out, is worse.
Horrible right here, right?
Oh, it's terrible. I'd rather get my elbow done again.
Yeah.
That was awful. And 2 sessions knocked it out, and then got, I think, 5 more spots and get them all done.
Well, your inside one is a lot better than my little inside one that I got going over here, right? Let's give him a shout out. So where did you get all the work done, and who was it by?
Chris Earnhardt down at Arcade Tattoo on Mission Ave.
out here in Oceanside, California. I think I may go see him. I know I had talked about you.
Yeah.
I want to get my token blue diamond tattoo finally after almost a decade. But I think I want to go with that same one.
Yeah. Shout out to Raid Team Co.
Yeah, Raid
for
Team
the design.
Co. I've had that same picture on my Instagram
for
a while
time,
now.
Yeah.
And I get more compliments and,
Well, they don't even have an Instagram anymore. Kaz took it down.
Yeah, what?
Or something happened, I don't know, but yeah, he
kind of came out of the woodworks.
Yeah, so he had that first Instagram account.
Yeah.
And now his new one's like, I think most hated is like the tag for it.
Okay.
But there hasn't been anything posted on there since May.
Yeah.
They got me Tilly.
Yeah.
He hooked that up. Yeah.
And Tilly, your dog, for those that don't know, she's a Malinois, correct?
She'll be 2 in May.
What schools? Because she's trained, right? She's been to a bunch of schools.
We sent her to, what's that place called? I can't remember what. We sent her to a 2-week-long training course just for basic obedience and shit like that.
Yeah.
But shout out to Two Guns Maligators, because that's what they do, is give away Malinois to service members and hurt service members and stuff like that. So me and another guy in my squad that were hit, we both got, he got the sister to Tilly.
Yeah.
I think her name's Jinx.
Jinx?
Yeah.
No, but you named her. She didn't come named Tilly, right?
Is Jess or Poppy named her? I can't remember, yeah.
Is there a meaning behind it, or?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Just Tilly.
She's got, and the thing that I love about her most are her floppy ears.
Dude,
she's got like that quirky ear that just
sometimes
is like
it's
off
sad.
to the side.
Yeah, sometimes it's sad to see, but other times it's like, aw. Because if something happens in the backyard, like both ears stand up and you're like, well, let's go.
Yeah.
And then the other time she's like,
yeah,
just droopy and shit.
No, I love Tilly though, and the whole, it's just crazy to think like how we, how our paths cross in life and everything, and for the people watching, most aren't going to know that story, so I'll give it. Yeah, essentially, I know you were initially in Jordan.
Yep.
In the summer of 21, right?
Yeah,
21. Was that a UDP to Jordan?
No, we were on the last MAGTAF.
The last MAGTAF to Jordan, so you went straight to Jordan.
Last MAGTAF in general.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
From what I heard. Don't quote me on anything I say, because I forget a lot of stuff, but yeah. The rumors were we were on the last MAGTAF, and when we were at ITX, it had actually got canked. We weren't going to have a deployment, and that was November or October of 20, and then January or February we found out we were going to Jordan.
Right.
Yeah.
So you ended up in Jordan. You were Victory 2-1 at the time, which has like a special place in both of our hearts, obviously.
Come to find out, yeah.
I didn't do any of the cool stuff like you did. I did the 30 Worst Mew back in the day.
Yeah, the 30 Worst, dude.
But getting back to the story, so our wives, we had recently moved to Oceanside, and I think your wife, Justice, had moved here
10 days before
when you were on deployment, though, right?
She moved into the house the second day I was at the gate.
Okay.
Like, that's how close it was.
Yeah, so you're mid-deployment, she moves out here, and they just happened to meet one day at the beach at Del Mar, I think our kids were...
Weirdly.
Yeah, I think our kids started playing, and they were like, hey, maybe
let me help you with your kid or something.
Yeah, exchange numbers or something, and, they became friends. But then, out of nowhere, craziness happened, because that happened to be the day that you got blown up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, just weird how life works. So that very same day, you were at the Abbey Gate in Kabul, and were a part of the, I guess, was it a
evac? I guess is what you could call it.
NEO, Non-Combatant Evacuation Operation. I don't know.
It's kind of hard to call it that if you think about it, because you're standing from me to you away from the tallies, and you're just like,
there was like a truce, if you will.
A weird
truce. Which I'm sure you can talk about like the weird vibes, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But yeah, so they had met, and then obviously the explosion happened, and she didn't know what had happened to you. She didn't hear anything initially, and then she got a call. Right? Well, I think it was the night of...
Honestly, to this day, I still have no idea what happened over here. All I know, really, is Jess was like, Poppy, you're going to Utah. Chris, you're going to just hang out. And
so I think it was... They had... So obviously, like, the blast happened, and then they did a memorial at the beach a couple days later, and then that's when, I think that day, she got the call, because then she called Ashton. She didn't know anybody else. I was like, hey, can you kind of help me out? I'm in a pickle right now. And of course, they're like, yeah, whatever you guys need. But I think by that time, you were already...
I was in Germany.
Germany or Bethesda?
I was in Germany because she was getting ready to buy a ticket to Germany because Vargas's mom was getting ready to do the same. And the way it worked out is she didn't have to go to Germany because I was coming to Bethesda.
Yeah, to Bethesda.
On a ventilator, so
yeah. So let's talk about the Kabul thing. If you want to talk about it,
we'll send it.
All right. So you're in Jordan. Did you guys have any idea of what was going on? Did you guys get told like, hey?
We saw the news and everything. From what I remember, this could be totally wrong. So just stand by. But yeah, we saw everything that was going on like the 13th or 14th. And then the head sheds running all around, going into the, what's it called?
Skiff?
Is that what it is? It's like the high security or whatever it is, yeah.
Sipper center.
Sipper, yeah, the Sipper room. And then we're kind of, okay, maybe something's happening. So we're all packing, throwing away stuff.
Of course, they're not really telling you anything,
not a word,
right?
not yet.
Just be ready, guys.
And then I think it was the 15th or something like that. They're like, hey, we're going, leave your deployment bag and I think both your seat bags. So we left all that. And then between then and I think the 18th, we were on deck in Kabul.
So you guys, how'd you fly over C-130? It wasn't commercial air, right?
I can't remember what we flew out.
It was probably just like, holy shit.
I can't remember what we flew out of Jordan, but into Kabul, it was C-17 combat landing.
Yeah.
And takeoff. I hate flying. But yeah, he fucking whoop. And then we get, because you have to take like a weird route to go to Afghan. And then out of nowhere, you're just like,
yeah.
And then you hit the deck, you got your nods, because I think we landed at night. And then you walk out, and then there's just people willy-nilly walking around, and you're like, what's going on here? Dropped off your main pack, and then it was like 12 hours we stood by in the gym, and then we went to the Abbey Gate.
How was that, though, for those 12 hours, do you remember?
Honestly, dude, it was so compartmentalized. I had no idea what was going on. It was just like, okay, I got my team. All right, spits, tell me where to go. And we'll just chill there.
But how was the energy? Do you remember, like, a little tense, a little...
I wasn't freaking out,
or
like,
just
surprisingly, but like a bunch of the head shed was kind of, they were really snappy, which is obviously
a little
expected.
On edge, probably.
Yeah. And then I think my squad was the first one to stage out of first platoon. The squad I was in, we were the first ones to stage at the Abbey Gate. We waited for everyone else. We got there, and then we moved up to the Abbey, towards the Abbey Gate itself, like the big steel gates, right where we were hit. And then first squad went up and tried to push back the mass crowd. And I just dropped my day pack. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Like out the gate, just
dude, it was
crazy.
Once we moved up past, so you have the Abbey Gate, and like this is the big road, and like this is basically where the Abbey Gate starts. We were in the back of it, just kind of chilling. And then the rest of the platoon got there. We moved up, we staged, and they're like, hey, first squad, you're up, go. And then second squad, my squad, we were just, well, not my squad, the squad I was in, we were just kind of like, all right, stand by till you get called. And I just dropped my day pack, and I was like, cool, I can sit down. These side sappies suck. It's hot as hell. Then the next thing I know, they're like, hey, second squad, boom, third squad, boom. And I was like, oh, fuck, here we go.
So did they brief you at all? Like, rules of engagement, cannot do, stuff of that? Or what the mission even was?
Get Americans out that had XYZ paperwork, because that had changed throughout while we were there, of the paperwork that we could and could not take. But we got to a point of where it was a U.S. visa, a passport, or they were a resident inside the... Like, I had a doctor that had lived in the U.S. since, like, 94, but his stuff was expired. So it was like, sorry, fam. Beat feet and see ya.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we all... First squad went up, and then immediately second, third got called up, and then that's when we met that first big rush of people where it was kind of like, holy shit. And then, you were asking about... Yeah, it was like, hey, the tallies, we're working with them. These guys are civilians, so treat them as such. They're obviously just trying to get out. But my biggest thing was like, everything just went over my head. Like, they told me, hey, don't do this, don't do that. And I was like, all right, cool. And then like the stuff they said in between that of like the specifics. Yeah, it was just like, not my problem.
Yeah.
Do this, do this, do this. And it was like, all right, cool, done.
Well, like the crazy thing is, I can't imagine what was going through your head being there, because when you're on deployment, you don't have like the access to news as much. I mean, I'm sure we had 2021, Wi-Fi. Like you do, but it's different. Like you're still overseas. You're in a different headspace. Like here, it was that's all everybody was talking about.
Yeah, and then stuff going on in Egypt though, or was it Egypt or wherever? We could see tracers across the Gulf.
Oh wow!
So we had a security post that was like a 4-level, 3-level story building.
You're talking about when you were in Jordan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting up there with my dudes one night, and way, way off, you could just see.
Oh wow! Oh, it was stuff going on with Israel and Palestine.
Yeah, that's what it was. And you just remember being like, oh,
wild. Yeah. 21 was crazy.
Yeah, it was nuts.
So much going on.
And then you're just watching that, like, yeah. Okay.
But it's just like what I was getting at, like when you're there in the moment on deployment versus like when you're back here and stuff is going on. It's two completely different things, you know?
Because like in when did Syria pop off?
Like 2015, 16-ish.
Like, I met a couple guys that were there, and then I was in high school when that stuff happened. So like, hearing his stories and thinking about where I was at are just like two totally different sides of the spectrum.
So you get to the Abbey Gate, you guys get briefed, and then you're just thrown out into it.
Yeah.
And how many Afghans do you think were at the Abbey Gate, like initially?
No clue.
Estimation, thousands, tens of thousands?
Tens.
100,000?
I'd say tens, because we got out like 100. Well, I guess I'd say
like at a huge like festival concert, just a swarm of people.
Yeah, like imagine a mosh pit.
It had to have been overwhelming.
Yeah, so when we...
Did you ever sit there and think in your head like this is really what I'm doing right now?
No, I was too worried about getting my next cigarette.
But we all saw the conditions too that you guys were living in.
So when we first met that, I wouldn't call it a mob, but when we first met that first crowd of like trying to push them back so we could reorganize, it was a mosh pit basically. Because I remember looking across. I'm getting smashed. I look across, and another buddy of mine's getting smashed, and he's like, "We got to get out of here." And they popped CS at that point, so you're choking on CS. You're looking at your buddy, and you're just like, "Man, this sucks." And that's like really your only thought because you're too worried about other stuff going on.
There was like a funnel point, right, with a canal, to where you guys were kind of at the end. And
so you remember where those steel gates were?
Yeah.
That's where we were at this first time.
At the very end of it, right? And you guys literally just formed like essentially a chain, and people would have to come to that and try to get processed through.
So you got the sniper tower, you got the steel gates right here. That's where when we first got to the Abbey Gate, that's where this is happening. And then finally we get everybody dragged out, and I had messed my ankle up so bad I got told to go sit on the packs. And then after that, I don't know what happened, but they'd got it cleared enough to where they can kind of reorganize everything.
How many days before the blast, like we'll say the day leading up to the blast, from when you got there, how many days were you guys boots on ground?
So we did a 96-hour shift.
A 96-hour shift?
Yeah.
4 days on?
Basically, yeah. And then we got sent back to the north side, so we sat security where they were loading the C-17s and stuff coming in and out. And from there we went back, and I think it was one more night we stayed, and then went back to the Abbey Gate. And I think, if I remember correctly, probably not, we were at the Abbey Gate again until we got hit.
So
it was basically 4, 6, or 4, then 2, and then I think 4.
Okay, so
because after that we had
week and a half-ish.
Yeah, because towards the end, right before we got hit, we had rested in the Baron Hotel where the Brits were at. I think. Yeah,
and it was a big coalition event. There was other nations there, right?
I think we counted
British.
Like 20.
Oh, there's who do you
15.
remember being there?
So I remember the Italians, the Brits, the Germans, the Norwegians, the Canadians, the Swedes, the Aussies, a bunch of different SF groups from those nations.
And we had also, what is that, tier 2 and above assets on the ground?
We had 2nd Recon, but I didn't know, out of the Marine Corps, I didn't know if we had any more levels. Because I remember, because Kelsee was from 2nd Intel, or from Intel with 2nd Recon.
Okay.
And then I remember seeing a bunch of dudes with high cuts and stuff, so I was like, the Recon or MARSOC, obviously. They're wearing MARPAT, so yeah, those are our guys.
Which is funny now, though, because the conventional forces are all getting high cuts now, too.
Little shits. They get
the only people I think aren't getting them is artillery, and they complain about it because they have to wear comms. But anyway, that's a whole separate story. Sorry, Artie. So yeah, there's a huge coalition, NEO that was going on.
At most there was 20, but at least I'd say 15.
Okay. It was kind of all blur too.
Yeah, when I did that last interview, I sat there and tried to think back of everything that had happened when she was asking me questions, and I was like, I have no idea. Like, you just compartmentalize everything and get on with your day.
Yeah, move on. Yeah, it had to have been very chaotic, coupled with, long hours. I'm sure the sleep was deprived. From the pictures I saw, the living conditions were... Yeah. I would have rather been in 29 Palms for, a big training exercise at Camp Wilson,
Old trusty dusty.
Just the craziness of everything going on, the weight of everything. Because, you guys process, thousands and thousands of refugees to come through?
I think when it was all said and done, we got like 173 or 183. Yeah.
It's
not just we, obviously. All the other people that were there.
You guys did a lot of good. A lot of good. Before we pushed the U.S. forces in, I remember... being on Instagram and seeing some of the videos of these guys trying to get on those big Air Force jets, like in the little well area where the landing gear retracts.
They got smashed.
Got smashed. Some people were literally hanging onto the plane. Until it was takeoff.
We saw that video right before we left Jordan.
That's just a level of desperation that I just cannot fathom.
Imagine, Toy Story, when they climb into the wheel well as the plane, or the landing gear well.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I could think. I know it's fucked up, but that's the only thing I could think of. And then
it's just crazy to really wrap your head around, though. We're so fortunate to be here in the United States, and I think a lot of the time we take that for granted. these people, their situation was so bad that they were
climbing
onto an aircraft,
doing Tom Cruise stuff.
Like their mind was telling them that they had no other option than to try and hang on to an aircraft to leave the scenario that they were in. That's it's like, try to wrap your head around that.
Like, I'd hate to be 1-8 when they had to clear the airfield. Like, that was probably pretty shitty, but
yeah. And how was that? Because the 2-1 and 1-8 were kind of the primary infantry units that were on ground.
I think there were some 82nd dudes there.
Okay.
But because they had been there for like 9 months from this is from what I heard. I don't know. But yeah, apparently 82nd dudes had been there for a hot minute.
Yeah.
And then I think 1-8 took the north side and we took the south side.
And how was that kind of working with, especially like an East Coast unit?
We didn't work with them.
Oh, you didn't work with them at all? You never saw them?
Like, we saw them, like their head shed would come over every now and again, or
Okay.
you'd see them at the chow hall when that couple days we got off. But other than that, West Coast is still better.
Yeah, but very minimal though, right?
Yeah.
I will say also West Coast. I mean, I'm sorry, Blue Diamond till I die, Blue Diamond forever.
But I think the most I saw from 1-8 was the FET team, and I'd see their head shed come over every once in a while.
Yeah.
But I could be mistaken, so yeah.
All right. So this goes on 10-ish days, and then you guys are back at the Abbey Gate, and you through the lines of intel, you guys get briefed that there's potentially a suicide.
We got briefed. Well, we didn't get briefed. I overheard some dudes talking about it, and I'm like, what? And they're like, there's
So you
possibles.
never got briefed?
Not that I remember, but also take that for what it's worth, because I don't remember a whole lot anyway. Like five paragraph orders, shit, dude,
Right out the window.
Oh yeah, every time. But I heard some dudes over talking about a possible, and I asked them, and they're like, hey, it was either a gray backpack with blue zippers or a blue backpack with gray zippers. And this heavy set older lady had that, and I called it. I was like, hey, motherfuckers, get EOD up here, like, we got that possible you guys were talking about. And they were all over it. They brought, I can't remember if it's the Modi or the Thor, whatever the hell it's called, the jammer. Came up, kicked it, it's just some clothes. But if you listen to Vargas, Vargas has seen possibles countless times while he was there. But yeah, we had that one, and then the horseshoe of Connex boxes we had, they had a couple possibles up there, and yeah.
Okay.
But I can't really remember being briefed on a possible.
You probably had so much going through your head then.
Yeah, I was probably thinking about sleep or food or something.
It's crazy, like, hearing about the stuff that you think about in the midst of all of that. Like, it still really boils down to simple things, right? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more, and I'm sure you were stressed and a lot of other things, but it's like, hey, I need some sleep. I need to get some food in my stomach. I need, whatever. It's a vice. Like, you need some nicotine or blah, blah, blah. Like,
I mean, I had my phone so I could talk to Josh and Poppy, so I wasn't too worried about that. But after that, it was like, hey, who's got a cigarette?
Yeah,
who's got a cigarette?
Right.
Who's got a dip? Who's got whatever? I remember I packed out like 15 Rip-Its, and they were gone in like the first 3 days.
Yeah.
They were donezo, just tweaking out the whole time.
So, morning of the blast, do you remember it at all? No. What time, Kabul time, did the blast happen? I thought wasn't it?
I think
I've
heard like 5 something.
It was
at
early.
night.
Oh, at night.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it was morning our time.
Yeah, because it's like 9.5 hours difference. We're behind them. And
do you remember that day at all before?
Yeah.
What was the day like?
It was mostly pulling kids out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were along the wall, and then the 2 concrete barriers, and everybody was pulling kids out. And it got to the point where I had like a breakdown, and my platoon sergeant pulled me aside, gave me a pack of cigarettes, and he's like, "Hey, take 5." I was like, "All right."
Is that EB?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I got tired of like just sitting there, so I walked back in there. We did a little bit more work, pulled a few more people out, threw a few more people back, and then I remember standing up on the concrete barriers and looking at one of my dudes. He was one of my machine gun seniors, and I was like, "This guy is dead, just getting trampled." And he's like, "They're all dead. Fuck it, get down." I'm like, "All right." So I hopped off there, and then the next thing I remember, we were hit.
Just like...
No, because I feel like when I think about it really hard, there's a gap in there somewhere. Not like super long, but something happened in between me hopping off that wall and me getting hit. Because where I originally thought I was in the blast, I wasn't. I was like back this way a little bit.
And I've seen some like mock-ups of it.
Yeah.
Where they have like where the explosion went off.
And like all the blue and yellow dots. And
everybody was. And I know we've obviously talked about this before.
Yeah.
Your estimation was what, like 10 meters?
At most 10.
It's so close.
So
how many? Okay, just to paint a picture, within if you took where we're gonna say the blast happened to you about 10 meters, right? And did a circle. How many people, including Marines, Afghan nationals, do you think would be in there? A couple hundred?
So I'd say half my platoon, so at least we had a 42. So I'd say at least 20 guys. That's not counting the whole FET team that was there and all the other people that were in there.
So a lot of U.S. military forces.
Oh yeah,
right?
I don't think anyone else was hit outside of U.S.
Yeah, but the Afghan nationals, they took almost 200 casualties.
I'd say probably 210, 220 people.
Yeah. Because
if you go past where we were at, the actual Abbey Gate over here, people were pegged over there too. So. And who knows what happened like inside the Bourbon Hotel, because the only thing separating the Bourbon Hotel from where we were at was a big chain link fence with what do you call it, like a thin tarp.
Okay.
Where it's like the fabric's weaved and stuff like that. Yeah, that's the only thing that really separated us from them. But the thing that made me rethink of where I was at is in the blast is Vargas posted a picture from the tower perspective, and I'm standing right behind Paige, like what looked like minutes before the blast. So that's probably right where I was, because originally I thought I was down closer to the barriers in the sniper tower, but with the way all the holes line up and where I was standing, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. So the blast happens. What happens next? Because I know you had said previously that you didn't lose consciousness, right?
So I fell into like a catcher squat, is what it felt like, and then I saw a big dust cloud. Well, I saw the dust cloud, but it looked like stand still, so I thought I was hit in the face. From the front, yeah. I thought I was hit from the front, and it wasn't until I was at Walter Reed that I found out I was hit from the side. And then,
which is weird to think, because like the angle of your body.
Yeah. So if you look at the picture of me and Paige, if this is Paige, this is me. The blast is coming from here, and that's my best guess right now of where I was standing. But
do you remember like the noise, everything, just loud? Your dome.
You ever stood
didn't
next
say
to
your dome got rocked, right? Like it was just like almost like.
Yeah, it was just ringing, and then like you ever stood next to a SMAR or an AT4 or something when they went off?
Yeah.
That's kind of like the level of percussion that I heard, and then after that it was, fuck, get out.
Yeah, it's just, to me, I know when we had. The few times we've kind of like delve into it before, I was like, what do you mean you didn't lose consciousness? You were that close, and it was just like,
I'm on
wild
medical mystery at this point.
But even like there's just so many little intricacies with it that it's like even if your body would have been angled this way, or if you would have been like a foot this way, or a foot that way, like could have been totally different. Now, I'm not saying that you didn't like come out unscathed, because obviously you had a ton of injuries, right?
But yeah, I don't know. Everybody's got, not everybody, like a bunch of me and the boys have like what we think happened. This group has, oh well, this happened. This group has, oh well, this happened. And it's just like, okay. Like, it got to the point where I was like, was I even blown up? Like, who fucking knows at this point? Because there's like so many different stories, and then when you tell your story, they're like, no, that's not what happened. So you're just like,
I think you kind of have.
Well, yeah.
You know.
But like on a different level, you're just like, who knows what happened? Like, we were hit.
Oh, the weird thing is, there has to be footage of it, and I'm talking about, from like an intel standpoint. There's classified footage of it. There has to be.
Oh, probably
drone footage, you know.
But if you look at the drone footage that's available, it's coming from east. It's coming from the east side, flying towards our position, and you could see like all the little dudes running. So maybe it was positioned different,
but it just happens to be. It doesn't show the blast.
No,
so you know what I mean, like.
The only video of the blast is a couple of my buddies from Fox have it, and it's the one you can see everywhere of the blast going off in the background and stuff like that. Yeah,
it was a pretty big
it's like 25 pounds.
Yeah.
Of the they said the equivalent of C4, or it was C4, ball bearing waste. I've quit reading all this stuff about it because I didn't give a shit at this point, but he had explosives, and over the top of that was ball bearings.
Hundreds of ball bearings.
Oh, yeah. To hit that many people.
And didn't even like the sniper hide get peppered too?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did they take any injuries or casualties up there?
Vargas was... So I didn't know this for like months, that Vargas was down by us when he got hit.
Wow.
Yeah. I thought he was in the sniper tower. I'm like, how do you get hit in the sniper tower like that? Like, that thing must have been like 50 pounds. And then they're like, no, Vargas was like 10 feet down from us on the wall. I was like, that makes a lot more sense.
So you guys, you get hit, and what's next? You just kind of collect yourself, or did you have a moment of like, whoa? Or did just instinct kick in, your training? And I know that sounds cliche, but but like you hear these stories from people, guys who have been in firefights, corpsmen that have been doing medicine in the middle of a firefight. They a lot of times it sounds cliche, but they talk about like the training and just those instincts like kicking in and just like getting to work.
The biggest thing that I like actually recognized was my squad leader yelled, "Fuck Woodrow." And I was like, oh shit, Spence is hit.
But you were still like coherent.
Yeah.
You were,
So I heard it was either Woodrow fuck or fuck Woodrow. And I turned around and was like, it was just flat. Everybody was flat. And I was like, oh shit. And then it was like, my legs numb. Well, it wasn't numb, it was like tingly, like the static feeling. So I was like, well, let's get the fuck out of here.
You didn't realize the extent or even that you had any injuries at the time?
No, because I haven't really told anybody this part, so podcast exclusive. I'm pretty sure I walked over Paige at one point, and that's the biggest issue I have, is because the picture has me and him next to each other, and when I turned around, I kind of was like on all fours for a second, and if my memory serves me right, it might not, but yeah. I'm pretty sure I walked over the top of Paige, but that's the biggest thing that eats at me. Is after that is when I got Kelsee, and then...
And what happened with that? Was she...
I don't know, like people have asked me, I don't know, dude. Like it was just kind of like a, let's go.
She just was there. Was she screaming?
She said help, from what I remember.
And come to find out she was paralyzed, right?
And then when I drug a little bit, I was like, this ain't happening. So
well, you drug her back,
a little bit.
Yeah.
And then when I let her go, and then there was a hole in the fence, and I crawled through that, and then if you look at the pictures, there's an L-shape concrete barrier. That's where I laid down and just said, I'm out. You've punched your time clock, like, you're done. And the next thing I know is one of the squad leaders in my platoon was beating me in the chest. And I was like, dude, my leg's broke. And that's the only thing I said to him. And he said, let's get out of here. And then he got me out, and the next thing I know is my platoon sergeant comes up, and he gets me under the other arm, and the only thing I'm telling these guys is my leg's broke. Mm-hmm. And my tongue's numb, I can't feel my face. And they get me to a litter, and yeah. And then they cut everything off, they do all the fun stuff. And my buddy Bompson, I'm pretty sure, was there with me. And I'm like, hey, my phone, wallet. Because at that point I kind of knew, like, okay, I'm good. Like,
my phone, wallet.
Yeah, that's all I needed. Because I wanted to be the one to call Jess and tell her that everything had happened and all that. And he's like, yeah, we got you, buddy. And I remember trying to spit blood up, but you have your tonsils out?
Nope.
What?
I don't have my tonsils out.
So when they take your tonsils out, well, for me, when I woke up, my tongue was completely numb. Like, I couldn't even use it, and that's the same feeling I had. And I'm trying to spit everything up and do all that. And it got to the point where the corpsman wouldn't let me. So I ended up kicking him off of me. Like, I was like, get the fuck off me. And then I rolled over, got it all out, and then the next thing I know is they're rolling in a happy birthday sign at Walter Reed.
That's wild.
Yeah, so I think it was 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. I think it was like 8 days, 6 days.
Yeah.
I was in the coma.
So you're in a coma, and obviously a lot of things had happened.
Yeah,
between then, right?
There, yeah.
I want to touch on something that you talked about earlier, and I know since like we had met, and some of the reports were first coming out, you had always downplayed this, but I've never let you downplay it because you have the warrior spirit within you, and it shows me your ability to kind of, I guess, downplay it. Just it's not a braggadocious point of yours, but you saved a Marine's life. And I know through our talks over the past year or so, that for you, it maybe was just you were just doing what any Marine would have done in that situation, right? But you have that warrior spirit. You're a hero. You're a badass, and like you saved somebody's life. So my hat's off to you. You guys did the biggest NEO in history.
I think that's the hardest thing to wrap your mind around, is everyone telling you that, like, oh, this is the biggest non-combative evac. And, like, obviously being there, you're going to be like, nah, whatever. But now that I've tried to remove myself so much from what had happened and everything surrounding it, like, you kind of get this outside perspective of, like, okay, maybe, yeah, it was a pretty big deal.
Yeah. Over time, has it kind of set in, if you will?
It didn't set in till August.
Yeah.
It wasn't even the anniversary, really. It was kind of when I came to the conclusion that I was going to retire. That's when I was kind of like, oh, okay, that was, for lack of a better term, that was fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Because right around the anniversary is when I was done. I was like, all right, I can't get back to full duty. I can't get back to the line. I can't get back to maybe go try because I was going to try for EOD for a long time. And then it got to the point where it was just like, no. So when all that came through, I was just like, damn, that was pretty wild what we did.
Yeah, finally set in.
Yeah, it took a year, because for the first few months after it happened, I was hammered all the time. But you can ask Joss, and it was bad.
Oh yeah, you had a lot to process and a lot of things to deal with.
And we have our first house together. We moved in together. Now, you're a full-time dad, obviously, but now you're like with them 24/7. You're not really going to work, because it's like what I do now is not really work. So you're home all the time and having to basically learn to be a dad. You had all that. You had all the shit from the 26 to deal with. You've got all the other stuff you're trying to do with. Yeah, it took a long time to, whatever you call it, it took a long time to process everything. Because it wasn't until about June or July of this year where I'd actually started talking about it, I guess.
Yeah, you were kind of reserved.
Yeah, it took a long time.
I mean, I'm sure with certain people you'd probably open up a little bit about some stuff. No. Yeah. Like,
it was just like, hey, put up this wall and carry on.
Yeah.
And then that wall finally came down, and it was like, okay, let's figure everything out.
I'm glad to hear that you're talking about some of the stuff and are processing it, right?
Yeah.
You need that to kind of, to move forward. Obviously, you're never going to forget this. You want to honor everybody that died that day.
And it's like people with like the whole black bracelet thing. Like when you're coming up, you're like, man, to have a black bracelet would be cool. I don't care who you are. Yeah. If you have a black bracelet, you rate some shit. But then you get one, and you live it every day. You're like, fuck this bracelet. Like, I don't even wear mine anymore. And to come to that realization, it's like, you're going to live with it every day. You're going to have to accept that. All this other noise surrounding it, it's like, it's just noise. Don't worry about it. Just worry about the boys. Make sure they're taken care of. Take care of yourself, and it'll all be all right.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Looking back when I was a boot line corpsman, all your seniors with the bracelets on, you're like, whoa,
salty as
they've
shit.
been through some stuff, and then you get yours, and it's not a glorious thing. No, it's a daily reminder that one of your best friends that you had some of the best times with is no longer here. And
God, they were some terrorists, I'll tell you that.